Welcome to the deep dive. You know, something that's constantly buzzing in the tech world, and I bet is on your mind too, is how to really get a handle on developer productivity. It's not just about lines of code, right? It's more about the efficiency of the whole development process.
Absolutely. And how it all ties back to the bigger business picture.
Exactly.
In today's, well, incredibly fast-paced environment, understanding this stuff and boosting it, it's not just nice to have anymore.
No, it feels critical.
It really is. It's kind of the engine driving innovation, letting companies stay ahead. Think of it as the key to delivering value consistently, effectively.
Okay, so our mission here in this deep dive is really to cut through all the noise. We've looked at, well, quite a bit of information to bring you the core insights. You know, what developer productivity really is, why it's so crucial, whether we can actually measure it.
Which is a big question people have.
Right. And maybe most importantly, how can we actually make it better? So think of this as your, let's say, streamlined guide, the essentials, without getting overwhelmed.
A shortcut through the complexity.
Yeah, exactly. And just to show why this really matters, think about this real-world example. Guidance from Adeeb in the tech hardware industry led to this incredible improvement in their pull request cycle time.
How much are we talking?
It went from nearly 3 days down to under an hour.
Wow. Okay, 3 days to under an hour. That's significant.
Right. It gives you a really concrete idea of the impact when you focus here. Okay, so let's unpack this. What exactly is developer productivity? It's got to be more than just raw speed.
Oh, definitely. It's much broader. At its heart, it's about achieving both efficiency and effectiveness.
Efficiency and effectiveness.
And delivering high-quality software. So yes, speed is part of it, but also the quality, the reliability of the code.
How stable things are.
Exactly. And how quickly teams can bounce back if something does go wrong. And crucially, how well all that effort actually contributes to the main business goals.
So things like short lead times, are those a good sign?
Yeah. Short lead times are a great indicator. They suggest efficient workflows, quick responsiveness. It's all part of that effectiveness piece.
So it's really about making sure development efforts create impactful outcomes. It's about being agile, staying competitive. Why is nailing this so important for organizations?
Well, like I said, it's the engine. High developer productivity directly impacts how fast a company can innovate and adapt. It translates pretty directly into releasing software faster, more reliably, and usually at a higher quality.
Which customers probably notice.
Absolutely. That fuels business agility, speeds up getting new features out, can reduce development costs over time. It boosts customer satisfaction and, yeah, ultimately gives you a real competitive edge.
And it's not just about the company's bottom line, is it? I mean, it feels like when developers aren't constantly hitting roadblocks, they're probably, well, happier, more engaged. Removing those bottlenecks seems key for them, too.
You've hit on a really important point. Improving productivity often means streamlining things, empowering teams,
Right.
which almost always leads to better job satisfaction and, happier, more engaged developers tend to produce better results. It's a positive cycle.
Okay, so we get what it is, why it's vital. Now, the tricky part, maybe, can we actually put numbers on something this multifaceted? Can we really measure developer productivity in a way that's actually meaningful?
Yes. Yes, we absolutely can. Now, boiling something as nuanced as software development down to just one single number, that would be, well, way too simplistic.
Yeah, that feels wrong.
And potentially misleading, even harmful. But we do have several key indicators, key metrics that give us really valuable insights into the health of teams and systems.
Okay, so what are these key metrics? What should we be paying attention to?
Well, a big one is lead time for changes.
Okay, lead time. What's that measure?
It's the time it takes for a piece of code from the moment a developer commits it to actually being live in production.
Got it. Commit to live. What does that tell us?
Short lead times generally mean efficient workflows, rapid responsiveness, things are flowing smoothly.
Okay, what else?
Then there's deployment frequency. Pretty straightforward. How often does a team release new code?
And more frequent is generally better.
Often, yes. Frequent deployments usually correlate with faster feedback loops, which is great, and actually reduced risk per deployment.
Interesting. Okay. What's next?
Mean time to restore, or MTTR. This one's about resilience. How quickly can a team recover when something goes wrong, like an incident or outage?
Ah, okay. So lower is better here.
Definitely. A low MTTR shows the system is resilient and the team's good at handling incidents efficiently. Then there's change failure rate.
Failure rate. That sounds important.
It is. It's the percentage of deployments that cause some kind of problem in production, requiring a fix or rollback.
So again, lower is better, means stable processes.
Exactly. Low failure rate points to stability, reliability in your deployment process. And one more key one, the commit to done ratio.
Commit to done.
Yeah, basically looking at the planned work, say, tasks in a sprint backlog, and seeing what percentage actually gets completed as planned.
Ah, so it's about predictability and execution.
Precisely. A high ratio suggests your planning and execution are effective.
These sound like really concrete things to track, but you mentioned applying them carefully earlier. What's the catch?
Context. Context is everything. You absolutely shouldn't use these metrics in isolation.
Right.
Or even worse, use them for like direct individual performance comparisons or stack ranking developers. That's a recipe for disaster.
Okay, so no leaderboards.
Definitely not. Think of them as health indicators for your process, for your system. They help you spot where the friction might be, where you could improve workflows, remove bottlenecks.
So diagnostic tools, not judgment tools.
Exactly. Use thoughtfully. They offer really actionable insights for actually boosting productivity, not just measuring it.
Okay. Speaking of boosting productivity, something everyone's talking about, generative AI. How is Gen AI changing the game here?
Gen AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic, and for good reason. It offers some really exciting possibilities for significantly enhancing developer productivity.
In what ways?
Well, it can automate a lot of the more routine, maybe repetitive coding tasks.
Boilerplate stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It can also help with code reviews by spotting potential issues, maybe even predicting errors before they happen.
Proactive error prediction. That sounds powerful.
It is, and it can generally speed up problem solving. All of this basically frees up developers' time and mental energy.
So they can focus on the harder problems.
Right. The more complex, strategic, innovative parts of the job, the stuff that really moves the needle for the business, less time on grunt work, more time on high-impact tasks.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have these metrics. We have tools like Gen AI potentially helping. How do organizations practically go about measuring this stuff day to day? What are the steps?
It's usually a process, typically involving a few key stages. First, and this is crucial, you need to define clear, relevant metrics.
Tailored to us, right? Not
Let's-
just generic ones.
Exactly. Tailored to your specific context, your goals. The DORA metrics we just talked about, lead time, deployment frequency, MTTR, change failure rate, they're a fantastic starting point for most.
Okay, define metrics. Step 1.
Step 2, you'll probably want to leverage productivity platforms. These are tools specifically designed to help here.
Like tools that plug into our existing systems.
Precisely. They integrate with your software development lifecycle, your SDLC tools, Jira, GitHub, Jenkins, whatever you use to pull in the data automatically.
You mentioned Harness Software Engineering Insights, or SEI, earlier. Is that an example?
Yes, Harness SEI is a good example of this kind of platform. It handles the integration, lets you configure the metrics you care about, and gives you dashboards for analysis.
Okay, so define metrics, use a platform. What's third?
Third, and this is ongoing, you need to regularly review those dashboards. Look at the data, understand the trends.
So it's not just set it and forget it.
Absolutely not. It's about using those insights to have conversations and make data-driven adjustments. Where are the bottlenecks? What can we tweak in our process?
So it's a continuous cycle. Measure, analyze, adjust, measure again.
Exactly. It's about using data to understand where the friction is and then iteratively making changes to smooth things out, to optimize.
And beyond measurement, what are some of the broader strategies organizations use to actually improve developer productivity?
Good question. There are several key areas to focus on. Process optimization is a big one.
Streamlining workflows.
Yeah, cutting out unnecessary steps, reducing bureaucratic hurdles, making the path from idea to production as smooth as possible.
Makes sense.
Then there's tooling enhancements. Adopting modern, efficient tools. Automating repetitive tasks wherever you can. Good tooling makes a huge difference.
What else? Culture.
Absolutely. Cultivating a strong culture and collaboration is vital. Things like easy knowledge sharing, effective peer reviews, breaking down silos.
And you mentioned developer experience before.
Yes, a huge focus should be on the developer experience, or DevEx. This means reducing cognitive load, minimizing distractions, making sure developers have blocks of focused time, creating an environment where they can actually do good work.
That seems really important. We have another interesting real-world example here, actually. In the cybersecurity sector, teams using an engineering metrics program, guided again by Adeeb, Adeeb, reportedly averaged over 4.5 coding days per week.
4.5 coding days, that's quite high.
It really highlights that link between engagement, focus, and real productivity, doesn't it? When the environment supports them, they can really get stuff done.
It absolutely does. It shows that when you create that supportive, productive environment, developers are more likely to be engaged and, well, effective at their core job, coding.
Now, shifting gears slightly, how does measuring productivity look different, if at all, within Agile teams? Do they use different metrics or have a different perspective?
It's often similar, but with some specific nuances. Many of the core metrics, like the DORA ones, are still very relevant in Agile. Okay? But Agile teams often use some additional metrics tied directly to their methodology. Sprint velocity is a common one.
Right, how much work gets done per sprint.
Exactly. Amount of work, often measured in story points or tasks, completed in a sprint. Then you have sprint burn down charts.
Visualizing progress?
Yep. Tracking progress against the sprint goal, showing remaining work. The commit to done ratio we mentioned earlier is also very relevant in Agile. How much of what we planned for the sprint actually got finished?
Okay.
And PR cycle time, the pull request cycle time we talked about with that first example, is particularly important in Agile because of the emphasis on frequent code integration and review.
So some overlap, some specifics for Agile. And how does a platform like Harness SEI help track all this in an Agile world? As it sounds like it needs to bring a lot together.
It does, and that's really what platforms like Harness SEI aim to do. They're built to give you that comprehensive view, especially for Agile. A key part is the integration with lots of different SDLC tools.
Connecting the dots.
Exactly. Connecting Jira, GitHub, Jenkins, SonarQube, everything to get a full picture. This gives you visibility into engineering efficiency using things like the DORA metrics, but also specific sprint insights for Agile teams.
So you can see sprint velocity, burn down, etc.
Right. Plus, it provides productivity insights through features often called things like dev insights or personalized development metrics, helping pinpoint improvement areas within those Agile teams.
And does it link back to the business goals we talked about?
Good platforms do. They offer business alignment metrics to help see if the development work is actually driving the intended business outcomes.
Okay.
Ultimately, the goal of a tool like SEI is to provide actionable insights, spot bottlenecks, suggest improvements, all within the framework of, say, implementing an engineering metrics program.
And you mentioned persona-based metrics. What's that?
That's about tailoring the metrics and dashboards to different roles. What an engineering manager needs to see might be different from what a VP of engineering or an individual developer finds useful. So creating views specific to their persona.
That makes sense. Tailoring the view. Now, we've mentioned Adeeb a few times in these impactful examples. What's their overall philosophy on driving developer productivity? It sounds like it's more than just the numbers and the tools.
Oh, much more. Adeeb really emphasizes a holistic and very human-centered approach.
Human-centered.
Yes. The view is that while technology and metrics are obviously important tools, real sustainable productivity comes from creating the right environment. An environment where developers can consistently deliver high-quality work without unnecessary friction or burnout.
Okay, so what goes into creating that kind of environment, according to Adeeb? What are the key ingredients?
There are several key factors they focus on. Empowering autonomy and ownership is huge.
Will letting developers have control?
Exactly. A sense of control over their work, the ability to make decisions and see their impact. Then, fostering psychological safety. This is critical.
Feeling safe to speak up, make mistakes.
Precisely. A culture where people feel safe, communicating openly, trying new things, even failing sometimes, without fear of blame. Learning from mistakes is key.
Okay, what else?
Finding the right balance between KTLO, keep the lights on tasks, the essential maintenance and operations work.
Right, the necessary chores.
And innovation. You need both stability and progress. There also needs to be effective tooling and automation, obviously, to reduce that friction we talked about.
Streamlining the work.
Yeah, and providing opportunities for continuous learning and growth. Keeping developers skilled, engaged, and adaptable. And finally, maybe underpinning it all, is clear alignment and communication of business goals.
So everyone knows why they're building what they're building.
Exactly. Understanding the bigger purpose.
It really sounds like Adeeb's perspective is about weaving everything together, the tech, the processes, the culture, but with the developer's well-being and experience right at the center.
That's a great way to put it.
And we heard about that gaming industry example where this approach helped manage scope creep and improve coding days. It really shows this holistic view working in practice.
It does. It highlights that developer productivity isn't just a technical problem to be solved with a tool, it's deeply connected to these human factors. Address those, and you unlock much bigger, more lasting gains.
Okay, so to try and bring this all together, we've dug into what developer productivity actually means, that blend of efficiency and effectiveness, delivering quality software that aligns with business goals.
Right. Speed, quality, reliability, impact.
We've seen why it's so incredibly vital today for speed to market, for reliability, cost, competitiveness, and importantly, for developer satisfaction and retention.
Hmm.
And crucially, we've learned that, yes, it is measurable. We can track it using key indicators like lead time for changes, deployment frequency, MTTR, change failure rate, especially if we use platforms like Harness SEI to help gather and analyze the data carefully.
With that crucial emphasis on context, not comparison.
Absolutely. And we touched on improvement strategies, optimizing processes, better tooling, fostering collaboration, focusing on DevX, and even leveraging new tech like generative AI.
And Adeeb's perspective really ties it all together nicely, doesn't it?
Good dive.
Reminding us that, yeah, metrics and tools are valuable, but they're most powerful when used within the right environment. One that fosters autonomy, psychological safety, continuous learning. That's where sustainable productivity really comes from.
It's that synergy, isn't it, between the data-driven insights and a supportive, human-centered culture.
Exactly. The tech and the human side working together.
So for everyone listening, maybe take a moment to think about how this resonates in your world. What do you see as the biggest levers or maybe the biggest hurdles to improving developer productivity where you are? It's definitely something worth chewing on.
Yeah, applying it to your own context is key.
And if you're looking for ways to get a more concrete data-driven handle on your team's productivity, well, exploring platforms like Harness SEI could be a very practical next step.
Mm-hmm. Could provide some valuable insights.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive, really getting into the nuts and bolts of developer productivity based on the information we explored. Thanks so much for tuning in.